Overpaying for anything sucks, especially socks, so why pay $45 for a single pair of grip socks when you can spend less than half? Pure Grip Socks Pro feature our best materials for optimal fit, moisture wicking, and performance at a fair price, just $16.99 a pair at puregripsocks.com.
Regardless of design or materials used, pretty well every football boot is constructed in the same way, where you take an upper, you take a sole plate, and you glue the two together, which means that is typically the built-in weak point on just about every football boot out there. And when they do eventually break, it is most likely that you're going to have some kind of a separation between these two elements, the highest wear area on a football boot typically being at the tip of the toe. Which brings us to the question that I want to answer in today's video: why are your football boots splitting at the toe? Or perhaps more importantly, what can you do to prevent this from happening? While it should never happen in the first couple of wears, it's very normal to see some form of separation between the sole plate and the upper during the lifespan of your football boots. It's most commonly going to happen at the tip of the toe, but can happen along the sides of the forefoot, the midfoot, sometimes even towards the heel. Regardless of where it happens, just realize that it's normal. Now this is where I think some people have unreal expectations for how their football boots are supposed to wear and are going to wear regardless of whether or not you like it. Basically the difference between normal wear and tear and a legitimate durability issue or concern. Look at the design of a sole plate. It's made from typically hard plastic, with the edge of that sole plate thinning out quite significantly and having a little bit of a lip. The lip can be shorter or longer depending on the specific football boot, but you have a very small amount of glue attaching that edge of the sole plate to the edges of the upper. And these edges are what's taking the majority of the abuse when you're playing in your boots, certainly when you're striking the ball. And if you mishit the ball and strike the ground, that is a lot of force and weight and impact and who knows what else being put on the little edge of that sole plate as it attaches to the upper that's being held together by some glue. Luckily, football boots are glued all the way across the bottom of the sole plate, so if the little edge frays, which is totally normal by the way, that does not necessarily mean that your football boots are breaking or there is a durability issue. It is something to keep an eye on, but it is very normal to see some level of very minor separation along the edges of your sole plate, even at the tip of the toe, even after the first couple of wears. More on the topic of an actual durability issue, if you're finding that your football boots are consistently separating at the tip of the toe and you're also somebody that tends to kick the ground a lot, your boots being too big could be a factor in this, where if you have that extra space at the end of the boot, think about the mechanics of striking a ball. It's a very precise motion, and if you have that extra material at the tip of the toe, extra length where your foot is not filling in, it is more likely that you're going to make contact with the ground, even if it's ever so slight, where every single time you strike the ball, you're putting wear on the edge of that sole plate as well as the edge of the upper. The more times that brushes against the ground or makes really hard contact with the ground, the more likely it is that your football boots are going to break. So having football boots that are the right size for you with as little extra space as possible could actually help the durability and prevent them from splitting at the toe. Do you play on natural grass or artificial grass? The playing surface and the general conditions that you're playing in have a huge impact on how your football boots are going to wear. If it's natural grass on an extremely well-kept pitch that's regularly watered and nice and soft, your football boots are going to last a lot longer because the conditions are just a lot less hard on your boots themselves. Where if you're playing on natural grass where it's rock hard and every single step you feel stud pressure under your feet, think about it. Every single time your boot makes contact with the ground, it's basically like playing on concrete, or at least not too far off of it, which means that's going to be a lot harder on your football boots. Artificial grass is kind of the same thing. It's very abrasive, it's very rough. When you slide on artificial grass and get a giant scrape across the side of your leg, think about what's happening every single time you strike the ball and the edge of your football boot at the tip of the toe brushes the ground. That is very hard on the boots. So playing conditions and playing surfaces are definitely something to take into consideration. Obviously, I've talked about this before, but having the right stud pattern for the playing surface you're playing on is not only going to be safer and typically better from a performance standpoint, but if you're playing on artificial grass, especially an AG pair of boots will typically have the necessary reinforcements to actually be more durable on the given playing surface it was designed for. It's really easy to blame the boots for breaking, but if you're consistently having different football boots breaking in the same way, I think you have to consider the variable that is yourself. Everybody moves a little bit different. Everyone's at different strength levels. Everybody is making contact with the ground in different ways. I've played with guys that drag their toes, and guess what? The toe on their football boot is consistently what breaks. Doesn't matter what you pick, that's a problem that is going to stick with you as long as you continue doing those things. So please take into consideration if you're regularly suffering from the toe splitting on your football boots, is there something that you're doing that you might be able to change to prevent this from happening, or at least make it happen less quickly than it normally does? I think everyone's gonna have their own opinion on this one based on personal experience, but I really don't think that leather or synthetic boots are necessarily more durable. I think it's more so about the entirety of the design and construction of a pair of football boots. I think the general idea of thinner and lighter being less durable versus something that has a little bit more bulk and thickness to it, lasting a little bit longer, is something that you should definitely follow if durability is a major concern for you. Don't buy something that is super thin and super light and expect it to last as long as something that weighs 3 or 4 ounces more. Nonetheless, I think you have to take into consideration pretty much everything. Stud patterns and sole plates are going to have a bigger impact on durability than uppers in my opinion, but do your research before buying if it's a major concern. I think one of the biggest misconceptions in the football boot industry is that if you buy top-end boots, the most expensive ones, they're not only going to be better in terms of feel and performance, but also better in terms of durability. That part just isn't true. When you get into higher end boots, you're typically going to get into materials that, yes, are better quality, but are typically going to be thinner, lighter, and softer for the sake of feel and performance, not necessarily for the sake of durability. If durability is concerned, lower end boots using thicker, slightly harder, and typically more rugged materials are a better recipe for a more durable product. You have to take into consideration that modern football boots are produced in very large quantities, and when you're making so many of such a complex product, you're going to end up with little imperfections, some of those imperfections resulting in premature durability issues. Basically, the boots breaking much sooner than they should. If this happens to you, it is a little bit unlucky, but that is the reason why big brands offer a manufacturer's warranty. If your boots break much sooner than they should, or much sooner than you think they should have broken, get in contact with the brand and they will most likely sort you out with a new pair. So there you have it, some tips and a little bit of an explanation as to why your football boots might be separating at the toe. If you guys enjoyed this video and perhaps want to see more like it on the channel, please don't forget to support it with a like. And if you enjoyed the content so much that you'd like to come back, it would mean the world to me if you could hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when my next new video goes live. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section. You can also find all of my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.